The movie starts with reporters talking about a deadly virus that has wiped out billions of people on Earth, with only a few survivors being children and young people, who they believe to be the hope to get a vaccine that will provide immunity for others against the virus. Next, we see Ellie getting on her bike and riding to a school where she stays for a while before she then rides to a house where she enters and sees a dead woman. She then later goes on to search around until she sees some canned items including cat food, which she eats when she gets home. The next morning, she's at the backyard of her house where her family has been buried. She sits there for a while and reminisces on a time when her mom gave her a necklace. Soon after, her day continues just as it started the other day, as she gets on her bicycle and rides to the school. However, as she's about to enter, she suddenly hears the sounds of cars that soon park in front of the school. The men in the SUVs are wearing a full bodysuit and they've got a sound detector which one of them uses to scan around. They then all get down with guns headed for the school's entrance. As Ellie sees this, she runs outside through the exit and continues to run into the woods, with the men chasing after her, though she's finally able to hide in a ditch after which the men leave. When they're gone, Ellie comes out and then locates a house not far away and finds another dead body which she covers up before then searching around until she finds canned peaches. She immediately opens it and pours it onto a plate, and even though she's disgusted at the sight of it, she eats it, but would then regret this as she ends up throwing up. Ellie then decides to check what's upstairs, only to find another dead-looking lady on a bed. As she takes a look at the body that has holes on its face, the lady suddenly wakes, much to Ellie's surprise. The lady seems to be really weak, though she's able to point Ellie to a knife on the floor, with the plan to kill herself. Ellie understands and then picks up the knife, and with her last bit of strength, the lady is able to hold onto Ellie's hand to then stab herself in the neck. Ellie looks disappointed and later leaves the house. On her way home, she stumbles on an infected man and is so terrified that she has to head the other way. However, a girl named Quinn, who has covered her face, comes from behind the man and kills him. Quinn then gets on her bicycle and chases after Ellie. She asks her to keep quiet and then to head for a dump to hide, with the masked men already after Ellie again. When they enter the dump, Quinn tells Ellie to remain quiet, and even has to cover Ellie's mouth and nose to stop her from breathing loudly. The masked men are again unable to find Ellie and Quinn, and after a while, they drive off. Quinn and Ellie also leave much later on Quinn's bicycle, and they soon arrive at Quinn's house. When they get in, Quinn blames Ellie for the men coming around again after they'd not been to the area for weeks, believing there were no survivors. However, when they saw Ellie the other day, they couldn't help but start coming around to try to find her. She also tells Ellie not to make loud noises because they could track the sound from miles away. She has managed to remain unseen and she wanted to keep it that way, telling Ellie she could stay for the night but then leave the next day, though Quinn offers to help her find some food before she leaves. Quinn later prepares pasta for the two of them, and Ellie is so happy to finally be eating something normal, so she lets Quinn know this. Quinn also advises her not to eat canned food again or any seafood as it's all infected and it was an easy way to get the virus, saying she learned the hard way, as she had to kill someone close to her who was infected. Later that night, Quinn hands Ellie some books that would teach her some survivor tricks that she needs to know. Ellie is however sad as she doesn't believe Quinn would actually let her leave even though they seem to be the last two survivors in the town. Later that night, Quinn tells Ellie that the masked men whom she referred to as stalkers were working for the government, and they were after them so they'd be able to use them as test subjects to derive a cure since they were immune. The next day, Quinn sets out to get some supplies, leaving Ellie at home and giving her some instructions as to what she should do while she's gone, including a small rocket she had to launch to let Quinn know when the masked men were around. With that, Quinn heads out and Ellie also starts to add some padded foam to her sneakers, after which she starts looking around the house and eventually draws two. Later on, Quinn is able to get supplies including a gun and a compass, and following that, she returns home and packs them all up for Ellie, also handing her the gun and telling her not to have sympathy for the survivors or the masked men because they could kill her. Ellie insists she doesn't want to leave, but Quinn tells her she's got to leave, much to Ellie's disappointment. The next day, Quinn drops Ellie off close to a new town, after which she wishes Ellie good luck and then turns back. When she gets back home, she eventually stumbles on a drawing of herself which Ellie drew, with the words "It matters to me" also written on the note too. With this, Quinn is forced to go back to get Ellie, and they then return to the house where Quinn would then tell Ellie that they'd have to move up north because their area was due to be searched by the stalkers and she didn't want to get caught. She also tells Ellie that she's on probation for 1 week, and if she doesn't do well enough, she'd have to cut Ellie off. After that, she also advises Ellie to take a bath, and then helps her. When they're about to sleep, Ellie thanks Quinn for taking her back, and Quinn also commends Ellie's drawing skills. Soon after, Ellie then tries to cuddle up with Quinn, and even though Quinn rejects at first, Ellie is able to stay really close to her as they then sleep. The next day, Quinn goes out for the supplies they'd be taking with them for their trip up north. And as she's about to embark on her search for supplies, she sees the stalkers already walking around in a nearby area. Ellie, on the other hand, stays at home to complete some house chores, and while she's at it, she sees a small music box and decides to go into the bathroom to play it. Quite unfortunately, the stalkers are able to track this sound even from a far distance, and they're then able to track Quinn's house. The sound of cars immediately lets Ellie know that the stalkers are around, and she then has to run away with Quinn's alert rocket before the stalkers make their way into the house. Ellie keeps on running until she finally has some breathing room to set off the rocket. And as she does, not only does she alert Quinn, but she alerts the stalkers too. Quinn immediately abandons her shopping and heads on the road to get to a safe place. However, she's quite unlucky as a stalker van sees her and then chases after her. She's able to lose them, but as she walks across an open field, she's unaware that stalkers are behind the bush, and she then gets shot with a tranquilizer dart. Even though she tries to force herself to move, the stalkers get close to her and shoot her again to make her unconscious. As they then carry her and are about to leave though, Ellie appears behind them with a gun, telling them to put Quinn down. The stalkers do this, however, as they're about to reach for their guns. She kills them and then has to drag Quinn to safety. Later that night, Quinn wakes up surprised to see Ellie, who tells her all that happened. Despite this, Quinn doesn't sound impressed, telling Ellie that her compassion would be the end of her, and that she wouldn't have done the same for Ellie. This causes Ellie to look disappointed. Quinn then says they've got to hide first before they even try to go anywhere because she was sure that the stalkers would be after them now that their colleagues had been killed. Much later into the night, the girls are able to avoid getting seen by the lights of a helicopter hovering around in search of them. They're then able to escape, and by morning, they reach a house where they're able to settle and eat, after which they also find a car. Together, Ellie and Quinn are able to get some fuel inside the car and then connect a number of batteries to try and recharge the car. Soon after, they try to get the car up and running, and even though it doesn't start at first, Quinn is able to power it up, and this gets the girls happy. As they're driving, they also make celebratory noises, and soon after, they eventually spot a woman on the road who pleads that she joins them. Quinn disagrees, and it doesn't take long for the woman to draw out her gun along with two men who come out of hiding. As they're outnumbered, Quinn and Ellie have to get out, though Quinn manages to hide a knife under her shirt. As the men are talking about how they'd kill and eat them up, Quinn draws out her knife and kills the guy holding her, after which she picks up his gun and shoots the lady. In the process of escaping, the last guy shoots Ellie, but Quinn is then able to kill him. Just as she then picks up Ellie, who had only been slightly hit, the two girls spot the stalker van approaching them, and they then have to quickly enter the car and drive away. They continue to be followed until they run out of gas and then have to run on foot. As Ellie is still injured, they're unable to go far before the stalkers start shooting the tranquilizer darts at them. In the process, Ellie gets shot and asks that Quinn runs away. And even though she's being shot at, Quinn manages to get to safety. The stalkers then go on to pick up Ellie and take her to the back of the van. Meanwhile, Quinn seems to change her mind about her plan to escape, after which she turns back, headed for the stalker van. However, when she's close enough, she sees that the van is already leaving. This doesn't stop her from going further as she takes a shortcut and later runs in front of the van, shouting that she had given up. This gets the stalkers to then come out of the van with their guns pointed at her. When they're close enough, she reaches for her gun and kills all three of them before then going to the back of the truck to check on Ellie. While she's at it, she also sees several gallons of fuel, which makes her happy as she then talks to an unconscious Ellie, saying they had enough fuel to run away to a place they'd never be found and that she'd never let anything happen to Ellie again. With that, she gets into the van and then drives away. And that is how it ended. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.